Well, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. We are brought to you today and every day by Big Willie's. That is Utah Sports Bar, 1717 South Main Street, right in the heart of Salt Lake City. They're bringing you a lunch special. They just did bring me a lunch special, so I might be a little bit salivary on the opening segment today. It smells good in here. Got the fries, got the fry sauce, about to crack into a lunch special from Big Willie's. Make that part of your plans today. When you clock out for that 45 minutes or an hour, head over to 1717 South Main Street. Tell Big Willie's that OC sent you, and they're going to take good care of you. All right, we are 12 days away from Utah football season kicking off. Night game at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. And that means the team itself has figured out a lot of those position battles. The team itself is now starting to game plan for UCLA, install for UCLA. Take a little extra bonus week of preparation and get ready for what we hope is the launch of a very successful bounce-back season for the University of Utah. Did a couple of show appearances over the weekend, humble brag, including jumping on a betting show with our good friend Jeff Schwartz, and talked about the expectations that the world has for Utah football versus the expectation that Utah has for Utah football. Well, there's actually two ways to think about that. There's the expectation that the state of Utah has for Utah football. That's us, the locals, and then that the team itself has for itself. Utah football is poised for one of two things. On the positive side, they are poised for an offensive renaissance, an offensive resurgence, an explosion compared to what you saw last year and by extension the year before that. Poised for a comeback, poised for a redemptive year for everyone who was on the roster last year, and probably most importantly for the elder statesmen of college football in our community and really college football in the United States. He's one of the old heads in Kyle Whittingham who has enough cachet to where last year doesn't really diminish Kyle Whittingham in the eyes of the national media. I don't think most people here begrudge him too aggressively what happened last year because we know it was so drastically health-related. But back-to-back-to-back years of underperformance or unfortunate performance would start to rattle the reputation just a little bit. And, of course, there's the conversation about the exit plan and the conversation about the succession plan with Morgan Scalley. So, Utah football is less than 2 weeks away from getting it rolling at the Rose Bowl and hopefully getting back to what Utah football is supposed to be, at least in the rewritten book of expectations, that final run in the Pac-12 and the recruiting changes and the transfer portal changes that have come in college football. Put that all against the backdrop of a college football playoff that will include at least one Big 12 team and probably, honestly, only one Big 12 team until a new model is adopted. And the new model, by the way, continues to be discussed. Every single framework that has been proposed has been rejected. There's now another. Tony Petitti and some of the powers that be in college football were talking as recently as this weekend about another expanded college football playoff format that would incorporate not 12, not 16, but 24 or 28 teams. And the thing that bothers me about this is that it's being viewed as like this radical outlier, insane type of thing. It's not that at all. It's exactly what FCS football has done for generations. 8 teams that automatically qualify as conference champions, 16 at-large teams. First round bye for the 8, and then a normal tournament for the 16. The model that was discussed this weekend and apparently first took root in Big Ten media days and then SEC media days gave it a little bit more attention, and finally it started to leak out that this is something that's being proposed, discussed, talked about, fleshed out. That model gives automatic bids instead of 8 conference champs, 16 at-large bids, which is probably the better way to do it if we're being honest. Most of the time, you're not going to have a mid-major conference champ, a Boise State, actually make the playoff as an at-large, or as this new model that, again, is only a model where it's 7 teams from the SEC, 7 teams from the Big Ten, 5 teams from the ACC, 5 teams from the Big 12, and then a smattering of at-large. That's with a 28-team model. The 24-team model would 7, 7, 4, 4, and 2. Give Boise State and the Conference USA champ and the new Pac-12 champ, I hate that we'd have to talk about that as a mid-major. Give them their automatic bid. Don't give them a first-round bye. We already got rid of that last year, right? After Arizona State and Boise State got first-round byes as highest-ranked conference champion automatic qualifiers. But while there's a lot of people that are turning their nose up at this, we don't need more. 12 is already enough. 16 with a bunch of SEC bids is too many. I don't mind it. You have to eliminate a regular season game, which means that you get rid of one garbage tune-up game, or you force the SEC to get rid of that Alabama versus Chattanooga game, Auburn versus the Citadel game that they play in Week 10 every year that nobody cares about, nobody wants. You'd have to get rid of that. You'd have to shorten the regular season by a game, and then the first round of those playoffs would be played in what we now call Conference Championship Weekend. You have to move Conference Championship Weekend up. And it's a further engagement for another larger footprint in the country. And I don't hate the idea of a Sun Belt champion getting a little bit of love and making an appearance in a college football playoff. 99 years out of 100, they're not going to beat the number 5 team from the SEC or whoever they end up fighting, and they ever they end up playing. You can tell I was in fight mode this weekend. But when we act like these ideas that have been played out already in the country for decades are radical because we're so arrogant about the top level of football being the only one that could possibly figure anything out, it kind of drives me a little bit crazy. The FCS playoffs have been awesome for a very, very long time, putting Power 4 teams and college football blue bloods, and yes, the occasional also ran and, hey, how did you get here type of personality in that format would also be kind of fun.
Guess what? You said 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000, that team will beat the 5th-ranked SEC team or the 5th-ranked Big Ten team, whatever it ends up being. Guess what happens when that happens too? It's more exciting. People get more into it when an underdog makes a run. I mean, NCAA tournament. That's all. Like the last year's NCAA tournament was not near as fun because there was no Cinderella. If we have Cinderellas, which is going to happen from time to time, it can be a good thing in the college football playoff. Obviously, you're not going to get the Cinderella. I mean, maybe you do under this model with only one group of 5 champion, but most likely you're not going to get it until you invite at least one more group of 5 champion. And yeah, best case scenario, the best teams win, but it's the worst case scenario is not all that bad when a Cinderella makes a run. It's actually pretty exciting.
And by the way, the Big Ten and the SEC are the ones with all the power here. And now the Big Ten and the SEC, instead of being collaborative in trying to find a model that they get to propose to everybody else, they're starting to have their little tiff. They're starting to have their, like, well, this is what we want. Why won't you guys get on board with this? And this might just be Tony Petitti, like, exposing some hypocrisy in the SEC. He might not actually want 24 or 28 teams. But early stage conversation and development is worth fleshing out, especially when there's precedent. Yes, it's at a lower level, but it works, and it has worked for a long time. I've made this point on the show many times before. We act like there's this like groundbreaking stuff being done with Power 4 football and major Division I football when FCS, Division II, Division III, NAIA, they've been running playoffs in football for a long time. High school football started this week. High school football runs playoffs, and nobody's just like, oh, my, there's too many people involved. You just say, no, that's awesome. We got the playoffs. And guess what? It's always the powers that emerge. But legends are made when one of those upsets happen. You think about college football, how many times do you hear people mentioning Appalachian State as one of the best upsets in all of college football? That was an essentially meaningless regular season game. And it put one program on the map and made an interesting little footnote for another program that is considered a college football blue blood.
And Appalachian State, by the way, Appalachian State, however, is the best way to say it. By the way, they're an FBS program,
They're an
Group
FBS
of Five program now. The road to that probably started with that upset over Michigan. Now, almost 20 years ago. So yeah, there's that one. Also, how often do people talk about Boise State's win in the Fiesta Bowl over a loaded Oklahoma team, led by Adrian Peterson? Like that, those things have made college football even more exciting than it was before that. I'm sure at that time, the powers that be are like, this is the peak. We've already hit the peak of the sport. It will never get better than this. Guess what? It got better when you invited more teams to the party. And obviously Utah started out with the 2004 team in the Fiesta Bowl, but that wasn't a classic upset win or anything. The 2008 one was a classic upset for a lot of people nationally, even though they were pretty close in the rankings. Like
just go back when you have some time, find the full broadcast of that Sugar Bowl, the full broadcast. See if you could get the pregame show and everything, and tell me that wasn't a classic upset. That was a bunch of dudes sitting on the desk, Barry Switzer, I'm talking to you especially, being like, one of these teams does not belong in the building with the other. One of these programs I've never paid attention to in my life.
Who knew he was talking about Alabama?
And, well,
you know?
That was how it started. It's the perfect meme, how it started versus how it's going. Pre-game conversation that was happening on that desk, and then halftime conversation and post-game conversation.
One of these Crimson
on that desk.
One of these Crimson teams belongs. One of them doesn't. Who
Also,
knew they were talking about Alabama?
The idea that the Crimson Tide is maroon instead of actual crimson, like their color scheme is actual
that's
crimson.
True. It's not
a
quite
little weird.
Crimson.
It's a little strange. You can't like two teams claiming crimson, and one of them is actual red, and the other one is maroon. I don't like.
Yeah.
Like, we know what a red tide is. We know what a crimson tide is. It's actually an amazing team name. You can't really make a mascot out of it, so they somehow adopted an elephant, which has nothing to do with any tides.
Right.
They should be some kind of a shark, probably.
Some kind of maybe a manta ray or something, like something marine.
Anything that appears in the Gulf is fine.
Yeah.
There's no elephants in the Gulf. But because they're Alabama, none of us bat an eye at this. In any case.
And the elephant is iconic.
But the fact of the matter is, upsets make college football better. Right now, there's this issue where we've gotten away in the halls of power, in the discussion rooms that actually make policy, It's very much like politics in the United States of America. There's a significant detachment from the actual fan experience as you cross that threshold into the power structure, where Pete Bavacqua at Notre Dame and Sankey and Petiti and these guys that are saying, well, what's in the best interest of college football? They're really saying, what's in the best interest of the most powerful people in college football? What's in the best interest of not the SEC and the Big Ten, not just that, but like specifically the powers in the Big Ten and the SEC. He's not, when Petiti's trying to make decisions, he's not trying to make decisions for Indiana and Maryland, even though Indiana kind of announced themselves as somebody to be reckoned with. He's making decisions that will favor Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, to a lesser extent, Wisconsin,
Penn State, USC
I always leave out Penn State. Yeah, USC, Oregon, and when Sankey's talking about like, hey, what's best for the SEC, he doesn't give a rip about what's best for Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. He's talking about what's in the best interest of Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, and all the way down probably to Ole Miss. How do I get an automatic bid that will make sure that Ole Miss is in these playoffs? That LSU will be in the playoff every single year, not every 3 years.
Yeah.
How do I make sure that my recognizable brands become more and more recognizable until, even though they're already synonymous with college football, they are college football for people? What these guys want is for college football, the brand of NCAA football, to be 20 teams, Notre Dame, and a bunch of blue bloods from the Big Ten and the SEC. They're like okay with Notre Dame being in there because they're Notre Dame. They probably are okay if like Clemson gets their honorable mention. They don't want anyone in the Big 12 involved, in the current Big 12.
Yeah, they'd be okay with Florida State.
They're like, what can we do to help out Texas?
They'd probably
what
be
can we
okay
do to help
with
out
Miami.
Oklahoma? Yeah, if Miami, but then they're saying, guys, see what we have here? We have a playoff situation, 16 teams, 24 teams if it gets to that. SEC doesn't like that. Big Ten is starting to push it because they can't agree on how many automatic bids they should give to the peasants. That's ultimately what the discussion is about. And we're talking about Utah embarking on a college football season where there's always going to be an automatic bid for the Big 12, I think. And there's
At least one.
There's always going to be an automatic bid for the ACC. But when you get whatever the at-large model that's adopted or you get the automatic bid model that's adopted, what you're talking about is limited access for Utah, for BYU, for Oklahoma State, for TCU until an invitation comes to join that party, which I don't know if it's ever going to. That party is designed to be exclusive and to try and close the doors. There's like this big old grizzly bear of a dude standing at the door trying not to let you in. And that grizzly bear is starting to fight with the polar bear next to it. The Big Ten and the SEC are starting to have a problem in their disagreements. So instead of being like, all right, well, I want my list. I want my list of, I need 5 teams. I need to get these 5 teams in. They're like, in the Big Ten at least, they're like, well, geez, 5's probably not enough for me. Because Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, that takes up 3 every year. I need those guys in every single year.
I mean, it might
and
be.
I want Wisconsin, and I want USC, and I want Oregon.
Yeah, it might.
Now we're getting to where I need at least 6. But wait, Indiana's pretty good right now. People are talking about Illinois also.
So maybe
and
7.
What if we ever invite somebody else? Like, hey, Washington's part of this conference, and Washington was in a national champ not so long ago. So now they're just like, well, why don't we do it to where we get 7 or 8? Yeah, let's do that. And the SEC's like, no, come on, guys. Well, no, but I got to keep everyone happy here. And they don't care about the Big 12, and they don't care about the ACC, and they certainly don't care about the at-large people. So it's just getting weirder and weirder in the halls of power. and the disconnect keeps getting wider and wider. But this one that fans are going to reject because the media is telling you to reject it and because the SEC is telling you to reject it, this is something that exists at FCS football levels and is awesome and is something that you probably would actually enjoy. And if it takes away the game against Cal Poly on a yearly basis, I am totally fine with that.
Absolutely. I mean, if you really think about it, this model, like you said, it not only mirrors FCS playoffs, it mirrors just about every NCAA championship tournament. Like, is that, I mean, I know the NCAA is not over football. They haven't been over football playoffs in the FBS level for a very long time. But don't we want it to be the NCAA tournament style? You got a big bracket. What upsets could happen here in the early rounds? And then, yeah, we want some big name brands playing for the national championship. Like, that's how every other sport does their playoffs, including FCS football. Like you said, why wouldn't it be a good thing to have FBS playoffs, college football playoff, more closely mirror that? By the way, OC, speaking of FCS playoffs, did you ever play in the playoff games in your time at Weber State?
No. We did not make the playoffs.
Okay. Because they've been making it. That was before, in recent years.
Look, here's the rule of thumb, James, is that any team that I'm actually playing on, that I'm actually on the field,
not good enough.
Not good. When I'm like a practice player, the team might be good. If I'm on the sideline,
go undefeated.
You could go undefeated. If you have to put me on the field, if you're going to let me play, you're not going to win that many games. Unfortunately, that is the curse of my athletic existence.
That was your Weber State career. That
was my Jordan High Beat Diggers career. That was my Weber State career. If I play, we're probably bad. If I don't play, because you have good players, so you don't need me on the field, then you got a chance to win. And
that would have been awesome. I wanted to ask you because I imagine it would have been an awesome experience to play in a college playoff like that. Before there was a playoff in the FBS level.
That was before there was a playoff. So it was like, it was a thing that didn't exist at the premium level. An interesting text coming in from 6752. In this model, games like the App State game would not matter. That game ruined a blue blood season. It would no longer have that effect if the playoff is that easily accessible. Here's the thing. The playoff is always going to be easily accessible for Michigan. We're never going back to a spot where Michigan has a hard time accessing the playoff. It's not going to happen. So what I'm saying is, presented with that reality, what would be better for all of us in college football if there was a place and a way for App State to have that contest in a playoff game instead. It wouldn't be Weber State. There is no more, like, it wouldn't be who's the best FCS team right now. It wouldn't be James Madison.
Probably North Dakota State,
Bison.
Did
James Madison? Yeah. I think they moved up too. Okay, yeah. It wouldn't be North Dakota State, right? They don't get to pull the upset against Michigan.
Fighting Trey Lances.
But the Sun Belt champ might. Once in a trillion. You know what I mean? And
Which
I think that
includes App State.
App State's in the Sun Belt, right? So, like,
full circle.
Because we can't go back to a spot where there's only 4, which 7946 on the text line suggested, go back to only 4 teams in the playoff. They're not going to. And guess what? We don't actually want that. Because then our conversation becomes, well, now the Big 12 can't get in, period.
Yeah,
if there's 4 teams in the playoff, I promise you, Utah, BYU, Arizona State, whoever your favorite Big 12 team, they have no shot. There never will be a situation unless you're all the way undefeated, wire to wire, which, again, incredibly difficult to pull off, incredibly unlikely. You're not going to be one of the top 4 teams. Those 4 spots are going to be 1-loss SEC teams, 1-loss Big 10 teams, Notre Dame in a good year, and 1-loss ACC teams as long as they're called Miami, Clemson, or
Florida State.
Florida State. Like,
Yeah.
in that case, we go back to the conversation we had several years ago where TCU had a case, man, and they're left out.
Yeah.
If we go back to 4, that 4 never includes the Big 12 Conference. I would rather have it be 24 with 3, 4, 5 teams from the Big 12 Conference that probably don't have a chance of actually beating Ohio State in the national championship game, that probably aren't going to beat Notre Dame or Oregon in the national championship game.
Maybe they win a first-round game. Maybe a second-round game.
Arizona State picked to finish last, not supposed to be anybody's darling, took Texas to the absolute wire last year in a playoff game.
Wildly entertaining.
Amazing game. And guess what? We watched, we enjoyed, schools and conferences got revenue from it, and that is what matters to these people now. I want the fan experience to be something that we get to enjoy all the way through the college football season. If we go back to 4 or we go back to 6, hell, if we go back to 8, the Big 12 probably gets elbowed out sooner than later.
Yeah, well, you go from a Sun Belt team, a new Pac-12 team, one of these Group of 5 teams, one time in 1,000, one time in 100, pulling off a first-round upset against a college football blue blood, to that same odds of the Big 12 champion getting into the playoff if there's not an automatic bid. Like, that's – you don't want to shrink it. Like, that's the worst thing. Shrinking it is absolutely the worst thing that come out of this. Now, of course, there's a number that there's a number there that would be too much. Just like we're talking about with NCAA tournament and basketball. Yeah. Like 68 is fine. We don't need to add. We don't need to add more, but they're talking about adding.
Because when they said 64, a lot of people said way too much, and then when they said 68, it's like that's way too much.
Well, yeah, I liked it at 64. Honestly, I think 64 is ideal. You get 4 regions, 16 teams. There you go.
It's great,
but
here's the thing, like, and this is the texter continuing and saying, I don't want FBS football to be NFL light. Okay,
what's wrong with the NFL though? Like, why don't you like that?
You know who wants college football to be NFL light more than anyone in the world? College football. Yeah, because the NFL is the most profitable, dominant, powerful entity in American sport, and college football wants to follow that. And I agree with you that there are some ways in which that is not good for college football, because college football is unique and special, and just trying to copycat the NFL and to pay people like the NFL and to have collective bargaining like the NFL makes it effectively minor league NFL. And that's probably not what we want in general. But if college football is going to continue to favor the blue bloods, which of course it's going to, you have to make sure that there are access points for the people who do not fit that category, and a larger expanded college football playoff model that mirrors what they have done in the FCS is a way that we should at least look at. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's something that should not be dismissed outright, because it allows for the also-rans, the other people, and most importantly, the Utah Utes to have better access to the playoff. That matters to me, and it, I think, should matter to you if you live in Salt Lake City.
Or if you're a BYU fan,
Same.
BYU, obviously. Like, all the Big 12 teams are in the same spot, like you said, very well said, until they get invited to Big 10 or SEC. Like, you're in the same spot. So you might as well be rooting with the group of 5s. More access for the little guy. That might as well be your mindset, because even though you're a Power 4, you are the 4th of the Power 4. ACC feels like it's worse, but as you pointed out, OC, they at least have 3 brand names. Big 12 has none of that, unfortunately.
All right, take a quick break here. We're going to come back with Ari Temkin. He joins us on Mondays. Now that we're in football season, and man, we are so close to actual Big 12 football play. We got a week 0 game, so we're, 6 days away from that thing. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio, friend of the program, and we get closer and closer to the Utah football season. Even closer than that is the beginning of the Big 12 football season, with Farmageddon being inexplicably played in the Emerald Isle. That'll be a Week 0 game, the best Week 0 game, and honestly, if it was in Week 1, it'd been one of the best Week 1 games coming in short order. Ari, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, man. How are you? And we got some WWE in the same Emerald Isle for some Big 12 WWE collab. Maybe we can get Dana White to bring some UFC out there and really get the combat sports rolling too.
Just make it the trifecta. You go UFC, WWE, college football in one weekend. That'd get people's blood flowing.
Yeah, like you get the real wrestling, the fake wrestling, and then football. Nothing better.
We were just talking about this this new, the rumor of further discussion about an expanded college football playoff model that the Big 12 gets to kind of like raise a hand to offer a vote, but it's going to be the SEC and the Big 10 that decide on what actually ends up happening with an expanded college football playoff model. After this year, where we will see 12 teams again, it's going to go somewhere else. And 24, 28, those have been proposed now, and it sounds like the Big Ten is more interested than the SEC is. The automatic bid thing becomes a massive talking point. In an ideal world, in a world that would best serve the Big 12, what is the most you're going to see this conference get, whatever model is adopted in terms of automatic qualifiers for an expanded college football playoff?
That's a great question. I love the way you mentioned, the Big 12 gets a say in it. I mean, this memorandum of agreement, whatever they're referring to it as, basically gives the SEC and the Big Ten all the power. But within there, it's like, well, you got to talk to us first. Like you can make decisions. It's like a household where it's like either the mother or the father is going to make the ultimate decision, and that changes depending on the household. But just talk to the other one before you make the decision. Just make them aware. I don't know if it's going to change anything, but just make sure they're aware of it. And then, of course, you're referring to the latest iteration from the Big Ten, which is the old 7-7-5-5-2-2 model. We're speaking in sequences of numbers now. It's not the 5-11, it's not the 4-4-2-2-1. This is the 7-7-5-5-2.
Yeah.
I personally would love OC, the 8-6-7-5-3-0-9 model. That's the model I think we should go with. I don't know what the automatic bids look like there, but we can figure it out. At least there it's a little bit easier to remember the sequence. And then at least, Tommy Two-Tone gets some more love. 30 years removed from that song. So, I mean, that's what I'm all for.
I will say this, bonus points to you. I did not think we were going to hear 8-6-7-5-3-0-9 on the show today. That's incredible. What a callback.
But, I mean, these sequences, it's like a joke. Like 4-4-2-2-1, 8-5-11, 7-7-5-5. Like, what are we talking about here? And how are we supposed to convey this to the public? It's absurd. People make these decisions from an ivory tower that any concept of human beings and the ability to internalize this stuff, because we grew up in sports that you won your division, you got to the playoffs, and then they added wild cards. So it's very self-explanatory. But trying to explain this to people, it's absurd. It's such a joke. I mean, I'm not even joking about the 8-7-5-3-0-9 because it might be the easiest way to remember any of these sequences. It's so ridiculous. But getting to the question, look, I don't think there's clearly a divide here between the SEC and the Big Ten's feeling on this. And, so Mama and Dada are fighting here. And the rest of the college football world is just trying to figure out, okay, where are we carving our spot? I guess I don't mind the 2018 playoff because that would mean more automatic bids for the Big 12. But I think that would dramatically change everything about college football. Forget about not playing conference championship games anymore. I mean, how do you create tiebreakers in a situation where the 5 best teams of the Big 12 get in? I mean, it will completely change everything about the regular season. And I mean, tiebreaker, it makes my brain hurt to try to think of any ways that they could do it. But yeah, I mean, I'm of the belief that any, additional guaranteed spots go, to the Big 12, as many as the Big 12 could possibly get. Look, I also think going from 12 to 28, this is a sport that for 100 years couldn't even decide who the national champion was. And so you'd shared national championships. And then, finally we got the BCS, and then we got the 4-team playoff. And it's like, man, things have accelerated at a breakneck pace to go from 100 years of we're not even sure who the national champion is, to now having 4 to 12 to whatever the growth is. I think it would be a bad idea to go from 12 to 28. I think eventually we get to 28, but I also think it's kind of a joke to get that many automatic bids for that many leagues. And then when you remember that, there's 2 at-large bids, well, one of those is going to go to Notre Dame every year, because if you've got John, look at the standings of the Big Ten last year. You're talking about a 5-4 Michigan team or a 5-4 Minnesota team. That's a joke. Especially compared to the NCAA tournament of basketball, where at least every conference gets their conference champion into the tournament. Far be it from me to say that the champion of the Sun Belt should compete with the 5-4 Minnesota team in a tournament type setting. So I think it's kind of a joke for the Big Ten to throw this out there, in a sense of let's see how people react to it. But ultimately, it's more of a shot at the SEC. What we have here is this kind of hilarious soap opera playing out right now between the SEC and the Big Ten, and I'm here for it.
So the number that the top number of automatic bids the Big 12 could get in what will probably end up being a 16-team playoff, probably, is what, 2?
2. Yeah, and even then, I feel like there's more momentum. I think what happened is there became a bunch of momentum for the 5+11, and the SEC wasn't happy with it, and the Big Ten was like, well, we're going to take our go home. And, so the SEC wants more guaranteed bids. But it looks like the, 16-team playoff with 5 automatic bids and then 11 at-large bids, it's just not something the SEC wants to get on board with. Whether the coaches said something completely different at SEC Media Days, but clearly we would have a 16-team playoff with if they agreed, because that's what the Big Ten wanted, that's what the Big 12 wanted, that's what the ACC wanted. Well, now we see majority rules here, right? The SEC would be the majority, or in this case, it's the SEC and the Big Ten, but clearly the SEC has more pull when 3 of the 4 conferences want one thing and they don't. So who's really driving the bus? But, the other thing too, OC, is the ACC thing is not going anywhere. Those teams are unhappy. They want to get out. There's already rumors that North Carolina is trying to put together a situation where they can get out by, the next 3-4 years. That's not going away, and that's not getting any better. The ACC is on a clock right now, and their future is tenuous at best. So there's also this sort of well, let's wait and see what happens there, because the Big 12 stands to gain, from the loss that the ACC will eventually suffer. But when we're talking about a TV deal for the Big 12 getting to 2031, or the I think it's the SEC or the Big 10 that's 2030, and the ACC in 2036, no, it'll be before that. If by 2030, I think we should be down to 3 power conferences, which includes the Big 12. What it all looks like and what the playoff looks like, that's what remains to be seen.
How closely tied to the ACC's eventual demise is whatever happens in the Big 12? Is that North Carolina getting out or whatever? Is that the falling domino that creates another mad rush?
Yeah, and I guess it depends on what the numbers look like in terms of what the SEC wants to add, and then, of course, what the Big Ten would then, from a corresponding move, want to add. There's some rumors that KU, that University of Kansas is trying to become attractive to both the SEC and the Big Ten, and that's a big part of the push to add to their stadium the way that they have, and whatever. So there's a game of musical chairs here, and you'd think that, okay, the ACC has, let's say, 4 or 5 schools that end up going to the SEC and the Big Ten. Well, then that just means more schools for the Big 12 to add. But, when things are open, they're open. And so you never know what can happen in terms of potential outgoing members. But if things stood where they are, yeah, you would think that the top of the ACC, and we're talking about Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina, and who knows about Duke? Maybe Duke joins the Big Ten. They seem to kind of fit that. And then maybe the rest go to the SEC. Well, then you've got a spot where if you're the Big 12, you can kind of pick and choose where you want to go. You know, do you add a Virginia and a Virginia Tech to have that rivalry? Do you add, do you add a Louisville? Because that makes a ton of sense. So I think, ultimately what we're looking at in the next 5 to 6 years is, who defects from the ACC and who goes to the SEC and the Big Ten, who's left, and what does that mean for the Big 12 in terms of who you'd want to add. But it's very clear that there is, huge disconnect between what's happening in the ACC and that is inevitable. Like the ACC is going to break apart. It's just a matter of when.
All right, Temkin, for another couple minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. This is not a Big 12 question, but it applies to all of college football, at least I think on some level. Michigan show cause penalties for Jim Harbaugh, who, of course, doesn't care at this point. The Wolverines were going to miss out on probably about $20 million or more because of punishments where they have to forfeit postseason revenue. There's been documentaries made about the cheating scandal. They're the butt of plenty of jokes. Is it costly enough, now that I think they're putting a bow on all this, that other people will say, man, I don't know. I don't know if we want to cheat. Or is this just like, hey, you got to be better at beating the system than they were?
I think it's a great way to phrase the question, OC. I think it almost, ultimately what it says is the NCAA's over here hey, look at us. We still matter. Hey, remember us? We're still relevant. Look at us. Look at what we can do. Look at this. Boom, bow. Tough penalty we levied on Michigan. How good are we? Yeah, no, it doesn't. No. The punishment here does not fit the crime if the crime is cheating. And I'm not even sure we know what the crime is yet, right? It's sort of well, here's the punishment. What'd they do? I don't know. They kind of got caught. You know what they did. It's but why are you punishing them, right? Did they cheat or not? Because I remember there being a conversation whether or not they were just kind of, getting ahead and exploiting the gray areas, or if they actually cheated. Because if they did, then the punishment, it doesn't get close to fitting the crime. And yeah, it incentivizes them to do so. And yeah, if you're Michigan or Ohio State or Georgia or Texas or, you're Alabama, you're too big to fail. So there's no way the NCAA or the college football playoff is going to bite off its nose to spite its face. You're not going to say, Michigan, you can't be in the playoffs the next 5 years. You're not going to – that's a cash cow for you. It's one of the major cash cows for you. So, yeah, it's a joke. We're not even sure at this point what they're actually being punished for, because it's all just innuendo and I guess what we thought it was, but it's not, right? It's such a weird, bizarre thing. And again, it's still the NCAA. Here we are 3 years later after the dust has settled and all the jokes and memes have been gone and already, pulled through, that they couldn't do anything quicker than this. This is the whole reason the NCAA has failed, the reason the NCAA is in the spot that it's in, and it's irrelevant. The NCAA is wildly irrelevant. And the only way it keeps its relevance is by doing this slap on the wrist and, by Charlie Baker going and appearing on different talk shows to talk about how relevant the NCAA is.
That's well articulated and incredibly frustrating. Ari, appreciate your time. Next week, we'll actually have – it's a game week. We'll actually have a matchup and the details of that matchup to talk about. Can't wait.
Appreciate you, brother. Take care. Have a good one.
Ari Temkin at Ari Sports on Twitter, Big 12 Radio over on TuneIn. Check him out. Great resource for us, and he's going to be joining us every Monday throughout the college football season. All right, it's a weird time of year where it's still hot, but cold is right around the corner, and that means your energy costs are high because you're trying to keep your house cool, and pretty soon they're going to be high because you're trying to get your house warm. One thing that can help in that effort, of course, is new windows. Replace those old windows, those single-pane windows, those nasty metal frame windows with some luxury vinyl that's manufactured, warranted, and installed right here in Salt Lake City, Utah by our friends at Advanced Window Products. 801-850-9100, and, of course, advancedwindows.com. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. I say it all the time, but there really is something special. There's a luxury in knowing that the person who sells you the window is also going to be the person or the company, not the actual person, who installs the window. And then that same company is going to be the one that answers your phone call if you do have any issues with the window, or more likely you're not going to have issues with the window, but you're probably going to want to say, hey, man, these guys are really, really great. These windows are fantastic, and they went in on time. They went in at the cost. They told me they were going to go in, and they're warranted for life. Maybe I'm going to go get some window coverings from the same company. So you're going to make a phone call, and it's the same people that are scheduling the next appointment. It's done right here, in-house, in our hometown. 801-850-9100. Nate Orchard, Jake Weber and company. They've been helping us out. They'll help you out. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more from Advanced Windows, Advanced Window Products at advancedwindows.com or 801-850-9100 and tell them that OC sent you. All right. There's an all-time All-American list out. Spoiler alert, there are no Utes on it, but we have to have a major discussion about how difficult it is to put these types of lists together. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Hot lunch time on the Sean O'Connell Show. Big Willie's brought us an actual hot lunch today. The lunch special at 1717 South Main today on Monday is the crispy chicken sandwich. Delightful. I just hammered about half of it down during the break. The fries are perfectly crispy. The fry sauce is an ideal ratio. And more importantly, when you get a chicken sandwich, the big question is that chicken itself, is that chicken breast going to still be moist? Or are they going to fry the crap out of it and it's going to be dried out meat? And I just rely on the crunch and on the fat in that fried skin in order to make it delicious. Very lightly breaded. It's like a dusting of crispy chicken. And the chicken itself carries the whole thing. Crisp pickles, little mayo, little chipotle sauce on there. Absolutely fantastic. Head down to Big Willie's, grab a craft cocktail, grab some of this delicious lunch special, and tell them OC sent you. That's the hot lunch. All-time All-American list put out by ESPN. Now, the funniest thing about this, I could go position by position, but the best thing about this is the first team defense, okay? First team defensive tackles on the all-time All-American list. Ndamukong Suh from Nebraska, 2009. Bronco Nagurski, University of Minnesota, 1929. Bronco Nagurski, of course, has an award named after him, one of the most dominant forces of the early part of the century when it came to defense. Here's the thing. Ndamukong Suh was second in the Heisman voting, had a long and decorated NFL career, and is an inhuman alien. He is gigantic. Bronco Nagurski in 2025 football would not be a defensive tackle. I looked up James Peterson, how big do you think Bronco Nagurski was when he was an All-American at the University of Minnesota from 1929? He was enormous for his era.
He's a
defensive tackle. Interior
right?
D tackle, not a pass rushing type.
What's he, 5'11", 220?
You undersold his height, but
okay.
he was
6'3",
he was
230.
He was 6'2", 230.
Okay.
So he is a mid-sized linebacker.
I mean, that's huge for 1929. Absolutely.
He was huge. And his hands especially, I guess, were gigantic. When he won an NFL championship, I don't know what size my ring is. He had a 19.5 ring size, and apparently the only one bigger than that has been Refrigerator Perry, I guess. I'm not a ring size expert, but you look at these all-time lists, and you can't do it. You can't do football, especially going all the way back to the beginning of football, because the game is so different now than it was then. I like a good list. I like a good discussion point. But at the end of the day, if you want to actually categorize these things properly, you do. Bronco Nagurski is the defensive tackle of the 1950 and earlier, or the 1975 even and earlier. The game they didn't even lift weights until about the 1980s. This guy was 6'3", 230 pounds. He's too small to be a tight end in today's game, and he was playing interior D tackle.
Yeah, one thing I also question is if you're going to put Bronco Nagurski on there, why is Jim Thorpe not one of the cornerbacks? You know, like if you're going to do that, why not honor a guy who people said is one of the greatest athletes of all time, especially in his era? Like,
Well, we have to look up and see if Thorpe was a first team All-American, because
maybe he wasn't. I figured he was.
You had to be an AP All-American in order to make this list.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
Which is
think
why, like, Anthony Munoz is not on it as an offensive tackle. They highlight this because Anthony Munoz, despite being thought of by many people as the best offensive lineman ever to play the game, he was never an AP All-American.
Yeah. Okay.
At
maybe
USC.
maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why.
I'm with you though. Like I would prefer Deion Sanders be on there instead of Jim Thorpe. But if you're going to, and if he was, maybe he wasn't a first team All-American, and maybe that's why. But if he was, and you're going to honor all eras, you might as well put that guy on there too. But maybe he wasn't a first team All-American.
That's the hot lunch. Head on down to Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. Grab the crispy chicken sandwich. That is the lunch special today. They gave us fries. You can also get it with veggies on the side if you're trying to be healthy. Man, delightful, delicious sandwich. And I'm telling you, the chicken is what carries it. Not the breading on the chicken. The bun is great. All of the fixins are great. But it's the chicken, perfectly cooked. Man, I could have another one of those. Hour 2 next on the Sean O'Connell Show. Scott Mitchell is going to swing by. Before we get there, Bailey from Mint Medical has stopped by to talk about some things that, people don't always love to talk about. Bailey, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Mint Medical, new partner on the program, new partner on the station. And look, our audience is primarily men that are heading into, 30s, 40s, and beyond, and ED can become an issue. You guys have a solution.
That's right. Yeah, we know that all men about 50 years old, half of them have an issue with ED, and some of them start a little earlier than that. So we have a fix for that. We do the acoustic wave therapy, which is it's a revolutionary treatment that treats it. You only need about 6 treatments, and you can get ahead of that problem before it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, and so. Sure. We have a treatment for that.
Without there are every medication you take has a side effect, and you got to schedule the appointment, so to speak, if you take some of those pills, right?
Right.
And this is addressing the root cause of the problem without the popping the pill.
Exactly. There's no injections. It's non-invasive. There's no pills. And you're right. You get the spontaneity back in the bedroom, if you will. And this treatment fixes the problem, the root cause of the problem.
Now, acoustic wave therapy is exactly what it sounds like. You use sound waves to treat the problem, correct?
That's right. That's why it's non-invasive. And the recovery time there is no recovery time. You can be back in business, if you will. Same day, it's only about a 10-minute procedure.
Now, sound waves can be weaponized. We know that. Like, is this going to hurt?
It's not. Some patients say, do I need lidocaine? No, you do not. You don't need anything. It is not painful at all.
So what's the biggest obstacle? Now, because people are aware that this is a possibility out there, right?
Right.
What's the biggest obstacle that you find when you're trying to get people to come in? Is it the embarrassment of it? Is it we're still insecure about this, even though, like you said, at a certain age, half of the men out there are dealing with it?
Yeah, you're right. The biggest problem is denial is not just a river in Egypt. We're in denial that it's really an issue, and should I fix it or will it go away? And so that is the biggest problem. Is we just it's part of our egos. We don't want to admit that, hey, this is not going as it should. So that's the biggest hurdle we want men to get over, is that just fix it now, and you don't have to have all the other invasive treatments or surgeries or pills or injections. Whoa. So it's
ouch.
Yeah, ouch. Exactly. So that's the biggest hurdle, is just getting men to come in and say, yeah, let's fix it.
You said as little as 6 treatments.
That's correct.
Now, if it's not the ideal, if it's not as little as 6, I mean, is there any downside to continuing the treatment and maybe it needs 12? What kind of side effects are we talking about?
There are no side effects because it is acoustic wave therapy. Like I said, there's no invasive part to it. So if somebody needs a few more than that, we can do that. But typically 6 treatments will get it done.
It's absolutely incredible. This has revolutionized the whole, I don't want to say industry because it sounds crass, because turning that part of your life into an industry, but it's been something that, I remember when the pills came out, how big of a deal that was for everybody.
Right.
And now you've got this that eliminates, all of those issues.
Right, and as we talked about too, with the pills or something else, you lose that spontaneity. This fixes the problem. So, as you know, we're called Mint Medical for a reason. We want to get you back into mint condition.
How can people get a hold of you?
Our phone number is real simple. We make it easy for somebody to call. It's 801-804-8000. They can just book an appointment. We throw in right now several things that are free. You'll get a free exam, a blood flow analysis. There's no obligation to come in and check it out. We even tell them, bring your spouse. We will give her a free Botox treatment just for coming in and supporting you. That's how important that is to us. And when you have that support, it's quite a compliment to the relationship. So we'll give you that free blood flow analysis, exam, and we also will throw in, if you become a patient, 5 nights free in Hawaii.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a luxury resort. That's how important this is to us. We want to incentivize those men to say, I got to take care of this.
Guys, you get the problem fixed and you get a vacation to go make sure that the problem is fixed. I mean, come on. This is a perfect situation right now.
That's right.
Fantastic.
And we have 2 locations. We have Layton or Sandy. So for your consultation, whatever's closest to you, just call in and we'll find out where we can put you on the schedule and get you in right away.
I know that there are obstacles in your mind. Get rid of those. Take your spouse in with you. Take advantage of the great opportunity presented by Mint Medical. Do it right now. And like Bailey said, it's not going to get better on its own. And the longer you wait, it's only going to get worse. So now is the time to act.
Exactly. Yeah, we that's why we do those promotions, just to get you off the couch or wherever you're at and just get you out of that comfort zone and say, hey, let's just get it fixed for you.
Check out Mint Medical, and if you want to, tell them OC sent you. I don't know if that helps you, but it helps me. Mint Medical, don't suffer with the ED anymore. If it's something you're concerned about, if it's a gradual process that you're like, it's not quite as impressive as it used to be, just go check it out now, fellas. Don't let it become a problem. Get out ahead of it with the help of Mint Medical. Bailey, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having us, Sean.
Scott Mitchell joins us next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Happy Monday, everybody. Glad to have you with us. Glad to have Scott Mitchell, host of the Down and Dirty, color analyst on Utah football radio broadcasts. First one this year is 12 days from now. Scott joins us to talk about all things Utah football. Scott, welcome. How are you?
You know, I am doing quite well. Thank you very much. I'm excited for football to start, but I'm doing well. Thanks.
So, the transition from general football preparation to game install happens kind of about now when you're focusing in. I mean, you get it's the first week of the season, you get kind of the bye week, the extra week of time to prepare. So coaches usually start shifting over. You're watching film on UCLA. You're doing playbook install type stuff specifically for UCLA. And that is different than the regular structure of practice. For a quarterback, the position you played for so long, how much does it change what you're doing on a day-to-day basis when you go from just like getting your chemistry down and your timing down with your receivers and everyone else in the offense to now you're preparing for what you're going to see week one?
I think it's one of the hardest transitions of like the entire year, and not just for a quarterback, but really for everyone. When you're in fall camp, everyone gets reps. You're involved. You're important. You go to the meetings, and when you're in the meeting, you actually watch plays of that you're in. You know, when you're a back, like everyone gets to watch plays. And there's a tempo to it. There's a pace. There's a rhythm. And then all of a sudden, it just changes. And so all the guys who are getting reps don't get reps anymore. And they're maybe a little disgruntled for a little bit of time. So you got to work through the emotion of that. And then the starters, you know, now they're getting all the reps. And it's exciting, but I think one of the biggest challenges is doing too much. Like you can over-prepare. You can overhype yourself. I think a couple of years ago when Utah went to Florida, I think that might have been the case. You know, they maybe over-prepared. And you get that paralysis by analogy. You're just lethargic. You're because a normal game week repetition and rhythm is just that 1 week, boom, and you go. And so it's harder. And I just think it's the hardest time you have all year to prepare and to deal with a practice week, because it's weeks and it's a couple of weeks and everyone is thrown off because everyone's been on this different schedule. And it hasn't been, you know, you've been on that schedule for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's hard for everyone to kind of get out of that rhythm.
You want to play a start bench cut with me, Scott?
I always do, Sean.
All right.
You know that.
This one's a little unorthodox because we're not talking about a particular player here. We're talking Utah football, Utah athletics royal families. All right, start one, bench one, cut one.
Oh, wow. That's a fun one.
The Ellis family.
Okay.
The Dyson family.
Okay.
The Barton family.
Okay.
Honorable mention to the Krugers, the Kemoyatus, the Lotulales, Mokafisis, Kaufusis. There's other such families. But I settled on Ellis, Dyson, and Barton. Now, you know the resumes of some of these people, so start one, bench one, cut one.
So really quickly before you start, I just realized something. It's not been hard to recruit at Utah. Like the secret of Utah is you get one kid and you get the whole family, and they all have. Luther had 12 kids. He probably has 5 or 6 Hall of Famers still in his in diapers at his house. He's got so many kids. But I know this will be a little unorthodox, but. Oh, man, like Paul Barton is my guy because we were teammates, and I just think that Paul is one of the funniest people in the world because he's so unfiltered. You know, he'll just tell you like how it is, and it's just so pleasant to talk to him all the time. And he's funny, and I don't even think he realizes how funny he is. And he's had 3 pretty darn good ones. But Luther's my guy, and I don't know. See, I'm totally biased on this. It's going to be one of those. I'm going to go start the Bartons, bench the Ellises and cut the Dysons.
All right.
Sorry, Kevin.
Kevin and Andre.
Kevin and I played golf together a couple of times, and it was really fun. He's a good guy too, but sorry,
Kevin.
That's my choice.
They're just grinding their teeth. Kevin and Andre Dyson, just mad. They're just real mad now. All right. Scott Mitchell starts the Barton family, benches the Ellis family, and cuts the Dyson family. It's a tough one because you don't know. Like Lander is still You don't know that story's not all the way written. Same is true with the Ellis family, to your point. But we've got two two consensus All-Americans out of the Ellises so far. But there's more Bartons. If you factor in mom and you factor in sister, you're talking about like all conference decorations everywhere. So it's tough. It's a tough one.
I think of all your start, bench, cut, this is your best one.
Oh, I like that.
This is a fun one. This is a good one. I liked it.
All right.
You got up early and got creative on that one. I'll just tell you that right now.
Yes, that's exactly what did not happen. All right. So as we get closer to UCLA, next week is when we'll really dive into UCLA. But the opportunity in front of a team, starting with a Power 4 opponent that is, it's a winnable game. It's not dissimilar from some we've seen in past seasons, but it's not going to be a great year by most projections for UCLA. They still have 4, 5, 6 NFL guys on the roster, and it's still a brand of sorts. It's not the same as starting your season with USC or Oregon, but it's a big enough game. So how do you balance that if you're the coaching staff, if you're a player on this team, that it's not a tune-up game against Cal Poly or Weber State or whatever? It's also not traveling to the swamp in week 1. How do you find the Goldilocks zone here?
So this game might be the most important game for Utah all year just because last year and even the year before had such a bad taste, and it was one that kind of rocked to the foundations of what had taken years and years to build. And I think everyone in the program said, hey, we're a great place. People around the country felt that way. Utah was picked to win the conference. Utah built up a tremendous amount of respect. Kyle Whittingham and that whole program, what they've done, and well-deserved. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. Worst record in, 15, 16 years and just wasn't what anyone expected. So, and then you make changes and you have this new quarterback and you're supposed to have this great offensive line. And, it looks like there's going to be better production offensively. But I think for the psyche of the program, for everyone, I think even the coaches, the fans, the players that are there, they know the expectation. They know what's at stake. And so I really think this is a critical game to just make a statement, to kind of get out there and say, okay, we got this thing headed in the right direction, because you're not going to know when you play Cal Poly. You're going to run over Cal Poly with your third teamers. And you're not going to really know in Laramie because, everything that happens in Laramie is like, it's like conspiracy theory. It doesn't exist. It's weird. And you're not going to know there. And you want to know, at least you want to. And I think this is the game that you're really going to at least have a pretty good indication of a lot of things. There's still questions about the defensive line. There's questions about the wide receivers, the kind of questions about maybe a cornerback position. But I think this is a hugely important game just for the psyche of everyone.
Scott Mitchell is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things Utah football right now, with UCLA approaching 12 days from now. In these final 12 days, how much can you improve as a team?
Well, I think you can. I think you can improve a lot, but I think you got to be really careful about doing too much. Like you just kind of burn yourself out, and you can get into bad habits because you're just the monotony of practicing over and over and over again. And so it's really important to get the work, but also to keep it fresh. And I think getting in, finding the right rhythm to get into game mode, which they're probably into by now, or at least after their last scrimmage, I would think. It's just so important for it's the new guys. It's the guys, the wide receivers, really, and the quarterback finding as much rhythm as they possibly can in the next couple of weeks. That's probably the place where you're gonna see it the most.
In a game, first game of the season, how many throws did it take Scott Mitchell to feel like he was, he got the timing down? You know how fast the pass rushers are coming. You know how fast the DBs are moving. You know how fast your route runners are going. Because game speed, no matter how hard you prepare in practice, no matter how diligently you focus on emulating a game, there's nothing like real games. There's nothing like actual competition. So how many throws did it take before you were like, all right, here I am, got it?
So for me, it was the first preseason game. It was weird every year. This in the NFL, college is different, but in the NFL, the first preseason game, you have this major question mark in the back of your head after the game's over, and the reason is when you're in practice, you're kind of in a conscious mode. And when you get into a game, no matter what, whether it's preseason or regular season, there's just kind of this like instinct that kicks in. You're kind of almost in a subconscious state. You react to a lot of things just subconsciously, and so you kind of freak out because you don't know if your instincts are still there or not. And then you go watch the film and you go, okay, I felt that. It's so much about moving in the pocket and feeling comfortable. And then after that, it's like, all right, I'm good. But it does take that first game to just kind of trust your instincts to get them going, because there's nothing, especially for a quarterback, like you never get hit in practice. So there's nothing like that, game speed and being in a game. Every year I think was different as far as the regular season goes, but I felt pretty ready by the time I got there. I was someone who liked to actually go more as I went through preseason, and it's very different now because I really just felt the more work I got, I just felt like going into the regular season was just another game. A lot of guys never, like Barry Sanders, never played in the preseason, and it would take him almost 2 games before he was even in game shape enough, as good as he was, to really hit on all cylinders. So it's more games than it is actual throws. And for me, it was just more, the more time I had in the preseason, the better off I was early on in the season, kind of hitting my stride.
There's a preseason game on tonight, Bengals Commanders, and these are two teams who have, a top 5 player on their roster sitting out. Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals has been holding out, and the impasse got to such a point they're like, all right, go ahead and see if you can find a trade partner. Same thing true for Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin. So if you're on the roster, how are you looking at this if you're another player on the team? Because you're like, man, we need this guy. We want this guy. And ownership's not getting a deal done with this guy. My understanding, and you know a million times better than I do, my understanding is like most people on the roster want guys to get paid for the most part. So if you're in that Bengals locker room, and I'm not talking about the preseason guys trying to battle for their roster spot, I'm talking about Joe Burrow. You're like, man, our best defensive player might not be on the team this year, and we're going to play real games in 3 weeks. How are you thinking about it?
It's extremely disheartening. And what I think, someone brought this idea up. I don't know who it was. And I just heard it somewhere. It could have even been a dream, I had. I don't know where it came from, but the idea was to not count quarterbacks against the salary cap. And just kind of have them in their own category, because they just get paid so differently, and the impact that one player has on a team is kind of unfair. Because it stifles you other areas, and it's like it's not fair that the quarterback doesn't get paid. It's like I got to take a pay cut so everyone else can get paid, so I can have a team around you. That's not really your true value, and it's not fair for the other players, because it's like, the teams have to make hard decisions. And it's like, do we pay our wide receivers, or do we pay our great defensive end? Or with the Commander situation, it's just like, it's sad because they probably have the money and they just aren't paying it. And really, there should be some kind of exception or modification to the salary cap, because you develop a player and they work in your system, and then you have to, they get to a certain age or a certain salary, and you have to make a hard choice to keep them around or not. And they built a fan following, and you built a team and a chemistry, and it just throws everything off. And, I'm always for everyone getting paid as much as they can. And it's just a tough situation that teams get into, because they've got to make these hard decisions on guys. And it throws everything off. And I think so much of it is the quarterback position is just too valued in the salary cap. And if there was a way to kind of take it out and have it as an exception, that it might make more sense. And then you keep more of these teams together, and you keep the continuity. And it ultimately, I think, Sean, makes it for a better product. If you get players on teams and these teams are more competitive, and you're going to, the Cincinnati Bengals should be a playoff contending, Super Bowl contending team with the type of players they have, and to dismantle. And same with the Washington Commanders. I mean, these guys are, from last year, look really good. So I that's my solution. I hated it as a player. Usually when a guy held out because he doesn't get the reps and the conditioning, when they do sign, they usually get injured. And so it's almost like if a guy sits out, you can pretty much guarantee he's not going to have a great year even when he comes back. And that's kind of how I always looked at it.
With the receiver situation in particular, right? And you make a lot of great points, and I actually like that idea of just exempting quarterback contracts, alter the salary cap however you want to, but say, like, you pay the quarterback as much as you want. He doesn't count. Fill your team with the best talent you can find. If you're a young quarterback, this is the case for the Commanders, right? You're a guy heading into your second year, and the team can't come to an agreement with your best target, your best option. As a quarterback, you don't get to do the job by yourself. The same is obviously true for the wide receiver, and that's a partnership that both guys want to continue. And it's not like Terry's not making any money. I mean, he's making $22 million a year. So you're the young quarterback who's still on your rookie deal. Your window is open right now, and you're looking at a guy who's not quite 30, so he's older than you, who's holding out and is at an impasse with the team. Who are you more mad at, the player or the team, that you can't get the deal done so I can have my favorite wide receiver?
Well, the gift that the Commanders have been given, every team wishes to have, and that's to have really good quarterback play at bargain prices.
Yes.
Like what the 49ers had. I mean, and you're very lucky to have it. I mean, so many young quarterbacks struggle and have a hard time figuring it out, and it takes 3 or 4 years, and then all of a sudden you have to pay a Trevor Lawrence, you have to pay a Tua, and you really wonder, was it worth it to us to do that? But when you have what Jaden Daniels did and looks to be, you have to make hay, whatever it takes. And I think it's really on the team more than anything. You have to surround him. You have to just say, this is our window. We got a real shot here to be ultra competitive, to go play in the Super Bowl, and we got to make moves across the board to make that happen. And they have the space to do it. And that's what I was saying. It makes no sense why they don't pay the wide receiver. And if anything's going to throw a young quarterback off, it's going to be his favorite target, the guy he's most comfortable with, not being there. I mean, that's just like, here, why don't you just cut off my left arm, and let me go play, because having that confidence in a guy is very automatic in clutch situations. You're going to go to that guy. He's going to deliver for you. It's the third down solutions, the red zone solutions when it really matters, and you have that confidence in a guy. That's just like gold. And to take that away and to not understand that is, people that just don't understand kind of the finer details of football and of really high level quarterback play. And every great quarterback has a guy, and they always have, and they always will. And to take that away is just foolish.
Well, we're going to see how it plays out in Washington, in Cincinnati, and in Dallas, because they've got the same situation happening with Micah Parsons. Last thing before I let you go, you're now an owner of a team. Every one of those guys has been granted the option to go seek trade. You own the Salt Lake City Stallions in the NFL. Which of those guys are you going out and putting a package together to trade for?
I mean, I would look, a player like Micah Parsons is that's a special player. It's always that special position that you need to find a guy, and he'd certainly be the top of my list of those guys. Wide receivers, as good as they are, they're just a lot easier to find. And Trey Hendrickson, as good as he is, he's not like that elite guy. You know, he's still really good. So there's a likelihood you could find and develop a guy like him. But that top tier, which I believe Micah Parsons is and could be, that's the rarest thing that you want to go get and find if you can get it.
Scott, you're the man. Appreciate you giving me time every week. Thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure, Sean. Anytime. Thank you.
Scott Mitchell, former Utah quarterback, longtime NFL veteran, and, of course, host of the Down and Dirty and color analyst on Utah radio broadcasts. We are 12 days away from the start of Utah's football season against UCLA. Night game. And as we talked about last week, like maybe probably the third or fourth best game of the day, and a perfect one to cap off your week one college football viewing experience. We still have Kyle Bonagura coming on in about half an hour. Live night events presenting our 2025 Granary Live Concert Series. That's powered by Nightingale College and Murdoch Hyundai. Check it out at ESPN700sports.com. Outdoor concerts in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City's Granary District, which is really on the rise. Cool new restaurants, cool new little shops over there, and, of course, the live night events and the Granary Live Concert Series. ESPN700sports.com for more information. The Athletic has released their list of the college football power rankings for coaches, and they don't do it 1 through 133 or whatever. They do it in tiers. Which tier did Kyle Whittingham land on? I'll tell you next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. James, I need you to be honest with me right now. Did you already talk about this on the show?
What did
the college football coaching tiers for 2025?
We did not. We did not get to that last week with Scott Mitchell, so this is perfect time.
Just wanted to make
Talk
sure.
about it on the show, yeah.
Wanted to make sure. All right.
We I told you off air we covered the that all-time All-American team, but you took an angle that we did not, so that was great. But that's the only thing that as far as the list that came out last week that we touched on. So you're good.
All right. The Athletic went through and they organized all of college football's Division I coaches into 8 tiers. Tier number 8, hot seats and fresh faces. So either coaches that are new or coaches that are in trouble. And some of these just, you're in a bad job. Our guy Trent Dilfer, by the way.
UAB,
apparently he's on the hot seat.
Oh, hot seats and fresh faces. That sounds like a really crappy hole-in-the-wall pizza place or something.
Tier 7 is works in progress. So folks that are not in trouble but have to do some things.
Okay.
Show me seasons. That's show me seasons ahead. That's tier
Missouri's
number 6.
in the Missouri schools, right?
Yeah,
show me season.
Every team from Missouri. No, like show me season. Good example here. Scott Satterfield from Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah.
Show me that you actually know what you're doing so we don't have to move on, right? Major Applewhite is on this one. Mike Loxley at Maryland is on this one. Jay Norvell at Colorado State is tier 6.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, tier 5, up and down. Dave Aranda is actually on this one, as is Brent Brennan from Arizona. And those two teams have, I think, wildly different outlooks
Absolutely.
for this season.
I feel like Dave Aranda, who we love, by the way, here in the state of Utah, and just he's been a terrific coach at Baylor. I feel like he encapsulates that more than Brent Brennan, because Brent Brennan's 1 year in the Power 4 level. And Aranda's had good years, and he's had some disappointing years, or at least some disappointing games in good years. Like I would say, you could say that about last year. So I feel like he encapsulates the up and down a lot more than Brent Brennan.
So Brent Brennan, I think they're factoring in his, he had some serious ups, obviously, at San Jose State.
Yeah. It must be the whole career that they're factoring in.
Yeah, well, they certainly are, because also Scott Frost is on this list, and he's the ultimate up and down coach.
He really is. A lot more than Dave Aranda, by the way.
So that's, interestingly enough, Sharon Moore from Michigan.
Where was he other than Michigan? Has he been a head coach?
I don't
before?
know. No, I don't know why he's on this.
Is it because...
I think it's because Michigan has its ups and downs, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see. Tier 4, Rising Stars and Steady Hands. I think those are 2 different tiers, but I don't work for the Athletics, so whatever. Rising Stars and Steady Hands. This is where Kenny Dillingham. This is tier 4. Last year he was tier 7. So Kenny Dillingham is undoubtedly a rising star in the world of college football. Deion Sanders is also on this tier, which is an interesting spot for him. Kalani Sitake.
More rising star than steady hand for Deion Sanders, for sure.
Kalani is on this, tier 4.
Steady hand. Actually, probably nationally looked as a rising star.
It's not like he's new in the job.
He's not new in the job, but he's kind of new to the national consciousness because we're not in it in the independence era, really.
Yeah, they had that, first year in the Big 12 was just okay. Last year, they were one of the surprise teams in all of college football.
I had to check my local bias there, but just in real time there, OC. To us, he's a steady hand. Outside of the state of Utah and outside of the Western region, probably more of a rising star.
Tier 3, high-level consistency. Matt Campbell of the Big 12 is on this list. Mario Cristobal, who people are familiar with because of his time at Oregon, and obviously because he came in and stole some really good recruits from the state of Utah while he was at Oregon.
Mario Cristobal, high-level, consistently losing 2 or more games than you should lose every year.
High-level consistency in underutilizing and hyper-talented roster. He's a better recruiter than he is coach.
Yeah, especially in late-game situations, but we digress.
Sonny Dykes is on this list, high-level consistency.
All right. Sure.
Willie Fritz from Houston and Mike Gundy are both on this list.
This feels like a Kyle Whittingham section of the list.
Chris Kleiman is on the list. Bronco Mendenhall is on the list.
All right.
Rich Rodriguez. This is the Big 12 list. This is like the half the coaches in the conference are called high-level consistency.
Witt in this section, or is he somewhere else?
He's not.
Okay.
Kyle Whittingham is in Tier 2
All right.
with the established winners.
Okay.
It's Kurt Signetti, Ryan Day, Kalen DeBoer, James Franklin, Marcus Freeman, Brian Kelly, Dan Lanning, Lance Leipold, Lincoln Riley. Don't like Kyle Whittingham being on the same tier as Lincoln Riley. Hate it, actually.
Established winners because he had 3 good seasons in he's now 6 years in? 8 years in? I don't know about that.
Steve Sarkisian and Kyle Whittingham on Tier 2. And Tier 1 is 2 different coaches. It's multiple-time champions in Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney. That's it.
Okay. I guess no Nick Saban anymore, so that narrows that Tier 1 field down a ton. Kurt Signetti, I know he had a really successful run at James Madison, right? And some lower level stuff, but like he has one overachieving year, by the way, with maybe the easiest schedule in all of the Power 4. And he's in Tier 2.
He's in Tier 2, and
I don't know about Kurt Signetti.
A lot of that is because he's won everywhere he's been.
Yeah, and he had a really good year with Indiana. I mean, I say that the schedule set him up for that, but you still had to win the games. So,
even if you have a to win with Indiana, in college football,
make the playoff
is a really impressive feat. So good for Kurt Signetti being there. I look,
it feels more rising star, but I guess they're looking at. Like, if Kalani Sitake is probably looked as a rising star more than a steady hand, then like Kurt Signetti probably is too. But
so Ryan Day being on the list. By the way, in the article breakdown, they expressed some angst over having to put him here because he just barely won a title.
So he's in the in Tier 1.
No, he's Tier 2.
Oh, Tier 2. Yeah, okay.
Like he just barely won a title.
Yeah,
and he's a good coach. It's just Michigan has been the thorn in his side, as you're well aware as a Buckeyes fan.
Yeah. And until this playoff run, really, really top 5 teams, until they went through this playoff run, it's been Michigan and like the best teams in the country that he's struggled to beat. If they're other than Penn State, of course, when Penn State's been considered one of the best teams in the country. So, yeah, this playoff run erased a lot of the, hey, he can't win big games. It's just now it's like, well, he doesn't seem to be able to win against Michigan.
Utah's Kyle Whittingham. This is the blurb. Utah's Kyle Whittingham coming off a 5-7 season, his first losing year since 2013, but he's taken the Utes to remarkable heights and then sustained. That includes an undefeated season in 2008, a Sugar Bowl win over Nick Saban's Alabama, and consecutive Pac-12 championships in 2021 and 2022. Similar story for Lance Leipold, whose Jayhawks went a disappointing 5-7 last year. A credit to how quickly he has raised expectations in Lawrence. He doesn't drop a tier for now.
Yeah, it feels like he's kind of teetering between the 2 and 3 if he indeed is a Tier 2 coach.
Well, I mean, Gundy didn't drop either. So,
yeah,
like, making sure that you maintain your success. Gundy has not had the same breakthrough years that Kyle Whittingham has had, but he's been remarkably consistent, and so he's in the high level consistency.
Absolutely.
Even though he had 1 year that has taken him out of the consistency, but when the whole sample size is 21 years long, a season where you don't do well is probably forgivable.
You had the two 5-7 years towards the beginning of the Pac-12 era, and then this one. Other than that, winning seasons every year. And 3 of them, high, or 3 or 4 of them, if you include 2019, like some of the best teams in the country.
I mean, 2019, you're a win away from making the college football playoff. And I don't like that revisionist history.
And then it fell apart in the Pac-12 championship game and the bowl game against Texas. But other than that, like a 3-loss team, 11-win team, that doesn't happen much at the University of Utah.
Yeah, I mean, if you like, we look at that year now because when it goes down in the record book, and you're just like, okay, that was a solid year. But if you had played better in that Pac-12 championship game, you're in the playoff.
Yeah, and maybe you get blown out like you did in the first round of the playoff, like you did in the bowl game. But it doesn't.
You would have cared.
Yeah, you probably
didn't care about that bowl game.
I'm just saying, even if it's a similar result in your postseason game, we think of it. We think of that season much higher regard than we do now because it just ended badly. But what? That's only one of 2 11-win seasons in the Kyle Whittingham era. The Sugar Bowl 08 team, and maybe there was another one in the end of the Mountain West that I'm not thinking of, and then that one certainly not in the Pac-12 because those 2 Pac-12 championship teams, I think they ended with 10.
I think you're right. Kyle Whittingham.
So I mean, as badly as that ended, like the 2019 team still deserves to be thought of in very high regard.
2008, you won 13 games. 2019, you won 11 games. And you're right. It was 2009 and 2010, they were a 10-win team. 2015, they were a 10-win team. 2018, you were a 9-win team.
Yeah, that was another one that after the letdown in the Pac-12 championship game, they really didn't show up in the bowl game, or else they would have been a 10-win team.
And then it was 10 wins each of those Pac-12 championship years. When you
so
Utah needs it. You know what? Utah needs to win a bowl game this year. Because remember when Kyle Whittingham had the best bowl winning percentage of like any college football coach in history?
I think he's tied for the most bowl wins, or maybe he's second for most bowl wins of all time.
They've lost 5 bowl games in a row.
They have.
They got to win a bowl game this year.
They do.
All right.
You got to get there first. Missed out last year.
Oh,
It's gonna happen.
Come on, James.
It's gonna happen, right?
Come on.
I'm sorry. Too much reality.
We got a short one next segment. So a company is marketing a new product with this slogan. You haven't had this since you were a baby. Immediately, does that make you want to buy it? I'll tell you what it is next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, Kyle Bonagura is going to join us at the top of hour number 3. He just finished a really interesting project, murder mystery kind of a situation, but also, we'll talk sports. All right, so brand new product being marketed in New York City. And the slogan, the tagline is, "You haven't had this since you were a baby." So what do you think it is, James?
So I wasn't aware you could buy people saying you're very cute. I wasn't aware you could do that.
Praise for your cute face.
And love.
Haven't had that since I was a baby.
Love and adoration. No, that's
diaper rash. Haven't had diaper rash since I was a baby.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy diaper rash. No. Pooping my pants all the time. Haven't had that since I was a baby.
Yeah, right, James. Yeah, right. You don't have to pretend.
You would say that on live radio. Yeah. That's exactly what someone on live radio would say.
Like something that a chronic pants pooper might say on radio.
Yeah. Say bathroom accidents.
This is. You haven't had it since you were a baby. Well, it's
breast milk.
Breast milk flavored ice cream.
Oh, okay.
A company is now selling a limited run of breast milk flavored small batch ice cream.
I'd try it one time.
It's got similar nutrients to breast milk and to formula, including colostrum, which is a major thing for helping your baby grow.
So that makes you wonder is it actually made of breast milk?
Okay, so I'm trying to find in the article if they're like. So wait, did they? Because there's a people. I don't know if you know this, but there's like a secondary market for breast milk.
Yeah.
Not just for babies, but also for bodybuilders.
My DMs are open if you want any of my wife's extra breast milk. Just saying. Be prepared to pay for it.
So Josh Hart, they have a video of Josh Hart trying it, and he's like, "Yeah, it's very accurate, and I hope that doesn't make my wife mad at me." So, look, here's the thing. I'm not going to lie. When your wife has a baby, you're going to taste it.
Yeah, you're curious.
It's delightful. It's a wonderful beverage for those babies and even for adults.
Beverage.
Here's the thing.
Like a protein shake because you get the solids you need from it.
What kind of a psycho do you look like if you wander into an ice cream parlor and it's like Rocky Road, cookies and cream, peaches and cream,
Reese's,
mint chocolate chip,
Oreo,
and then breast milk, and you order the breast milk flavored ice cream?
Could I actually get breast milk with the Oreos in it?
Could you
maybe some baklava breast milk?
I would walk into this place, and if you order that, expect that when you do, someone's going to show up and arrest you after you order it.
Yeah,
after you pay for it. Like, this is entrapment for weirdos. If it's the only thing they're selling, it changes it very slightly. But if you go in and you choose the breast milk flavored ice cream over Rocky Road, you're a weirdo.
You just go in with the ski mask on.
I just
don't look at the security cameras directly.
Would I be curious enough to want to taste it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would I be curious enough to go in, order it in public, and sit there and have people know that I'm eating breast milk flavored ice cream? No way. No shot, no chance.
There's certain products, and we won't get into specifics, but there's certain products, and I feel like this falls into it, that if you go to a store in person or a shop in person to buy it, you're quickly grabbing it off the shelf, covering it up, and you run into the register, right? Like you're being discreet. This feels like one of those, or it just feels like one you order it online. Of course, you can't order ice cream online.
It's hard to order ice cream online.
You can't really order ice cream online, but like there's certain products like you just would prefer if other people don't see you buying it.
It's called Frida. I'm going to look this up, okay? Can we get this stuff online?
Is this just an ice cream parlor thing, or is it like sold in grocery stores?
Let's see. It's Frida.com. Oh, the fuss stops here. You can't wait. Is Frida the one that like the nose Frida that makes the thing that you can suck the boogers out of your baby's?
Oh, it might be.
No, the Frida breast milk ice cream is not made with actual human breast milk.
All right, good to know.
Okay.
A little less weird then.
Does that make it better or worse? Because if you're like, I want the nutritional value of breast milk based ice cream
of real breast milk.
That's like, okay,
real frozen
like
breast milk.
Like I said, bodybuilders will buy it for like a lot per ounce because it does help add mass. It's like the next best thing to human growth hormone. But if you just want the flavor, it's like regular cow's milk, and you just want it to taste like breast. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah,
Doesn't that make you kind of a lunatic? Aren't you like? Isn't this a very problematic product for even the most curious person to just be like, yeah, I choose that over mango.
I'll have the breast milk ice cream. What was that?
Sorry, sir, I couldn't hear you. What did you want to say? Give me 2 scoops of the breast milk, please.
I feel like that's an ad opportunity for them, just having guys feeling awkward,
just having people
wanting to
awkward.
order, and just the breast milk ice cream. Oh yeah, coming right up. They know.
Okay,
they
James,
know what you want.
You walk into this place. You and your wife take a trip to New York City. Okay, you walk into this place, and they're selling. It's like, oh, what would you like, honey? She's like, oh, I'll take 2 scoops of rainbow sherbet.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna have? And you're just like, I will have a waffle cone with the breast milk flavored ice cream. What is the look that you're getting from your wife? My wife would turn around and walk out of the store.
Like, are you kidding me?
And just like, I'm not with him. I do not know who that person is. He followed me in here. We are in no way associated.
No, but what if you're like, because like you said, it's become very well known that bodybuilders like the breast milk. What if you're just like super jacked and you could pass as a bodybuilder? That one, maybe no weird looks.
No, you're still getting weird looks because then they're like, sir, this is not actually made with breast milk. You're just eating ice cream. It's not good for you. You're just like, oh, well, never mind then. I only wanted it if it was the actual nutritional.
Well, this is not the right place for me because I don't eat fat. So see you later.
I just like, I love it. And it's kind of like it's a gimmick thing. This is not going to be a mainstay. It's like Breastfeeding Awareness Month or something like that. And it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's
getting attention.
It's getting attention. It's getting people to
I
talk
love
about
that
it.
Josh Hart is endorsing it.
But
Is that what you said? He's endorsing it?
But I just think like the actual logistical, like, how do I get this to try? Because there's an obstacle there where you're just like, even you have to do self-checkout at the grocery store if it's in the grocery store.
This is one of those products where if you can't, and this one you might not be able to order online, but if you can order something, it's in the bucket of, if you can order it online, you order it online. And if you can't, then you grab it quickly and do self-checkout.
I will say this, the article that I'm reading this about does have a link. You can go. I think there must be over-ordered because it crashes when you go there.
Oh.
$12.99 per pint. So they're selling out of this stuff.
They're just
presumably.
pack it with the dry ice so that
also there's a
cold.
home recipe for real breast milk
Let's go.
ice cream.
See, that's the way to do it. If you're a sicko who wants to try this, make it at home
I don't even think it
with
makes
your own
you,
breast.
I don't even think it makes you a sicko if you want to try it.
It doesn't.
I just think it's like a weird obstacle to try and get it. And if you're a dude out there,
but if women want to try it, I don't think it's weird at all. It's like, this is your milk, right?
Like 877-353-0700. Every one of you who's have a spouse with kids, you've tried it, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's tried it. You got to try it. You can't be feeding your kids something if you don't know it's good.
Come on now.
Come on.
You got to make sure it's not poison.
How insulting is that to your wife? I got to test it, make sure it's not poisonous.
I know yours isn't if you're listening.
All right, we're way in the weeds here. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. Kyle Bonagura is going to join us next on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show continues here on a Monday. We welcome Kyle Bonagura, ESPN staff writer. Kyle, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing all right. The Finding Dolores podcast and investigation, it's really interesting for me to follow along here. How did this become a thing that you decided you wanted to put so much time, effort, energy into?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking about it. It's a long story. It's kind of a wild story, but the short version is that back in 2020, my colleague Adam Rittenberg and I kind of stumbled onto this story about what happened to Paul Wolf growing up. Paul was the coach at Washington State for a few years. He's now the head coach at Cal Poly. And so we wrote this big story that published in 2021. We spent about 10 months reporting it. But when we got to the finish line, we just knew that there was so much more to what happened that we weren't able to get into for an ESPN audience. And so over the last several years, we kept pursuing at it, picking away at it, found a good home for it as a true crime podcast, and then went back to the drawing board and reported it out from start to finish again. We're happy to be starting to release. We're 3 episodes in. The third episode, It's a Wild One, was released this morning.
Are you a true crime podcast type enthusiast? Is this something that has always been, as a fan, I guess, before you decided to get into it yourself?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, it's not like I'm listening to them all the time, but when a compelling one kind of comes my way, I certainly can get addicted. And I think more than just like true crime, it's really just podcast storytelling in general over a series, right? If you have a story that can be told over a few episodes and it's something that's compelling, you can get really invested in any sort of audio documentary like that. I think it's a really entertaining, form of storytelling and something that I was always hopeful to take a stab at. So with this one, it just so happened that we ended up with a good story that had a lot of potential in front of us. And so we decided to move forward and turn it into something really, really comprehensive.
Oh, cool. I recommend everyone go and check out what you can of the you said episode 3 just came out, the Finding Dolores podcast.
Yeah, so the podcast, the full name is The Unforgotten, and it's season 3, and the name of our season is Finding Dolores Wolf. So any of your podcast apps, just search for The Unforgotten. Finding Dolores Wolf should pop up right there. I've been kind of posting it on social media as well, so it should be pretty easy to find with a couple keyword searches.
All right, let's talk a little college football. I mean, just scrolling down in your Twitter and I don't know why my brain didn't do this already, but the equivalent of Bill Belichick going to North Carolina and Bill Walsh going back to Stanford obviously is something that you've touched on with ESPN, and it makes total sense. And there's some great quotes about how even other coaches were in awe of a coach like that coming back to the college football game. And I was curious earlier in the summer whether or not Belichick was going to be like this year's Deion Sanders because of all the relationship stuff that was happening, and who knows what it's going to look like. How are we going to treat this story of one of the all-time great, maybe the all-time great head coach in NFL history, now testing out his hand at the college football level? Are we going to be as fascinated by him and by that as we were last year and 2 years ago with Deion?
I think it's going to be, it's a good comp, right? I think it's a comp between Bill Walsh going back and the Deion Sanders thing, right? Because it's the parallels with Walsh are, Walsh in 93 when he went back to Stanford, and this is the long story that I reported over the summer, was that he was, the preeminent football mind, the preeminent living college football or football mind across the board, right? He installed a dynasty in San Francisco with the 49ers, coached the best quarterback at the time, Joe Montana, right? And then accomplished everything there was to do, and then went back to college where he was just viewed as this kind of celebrity football genius. And, a lot of that applies to Bill Belichick, of course, right? And then, of course, it's a different era. college football was different, media was different. And so you kind of blend that with Deion, this, larger than life figure coming back to college 2 years ago. We're going to see some of both with Belichick, I think. And I think he doesn't have the flashy personality that Deion did, but what he has is just the bona fides as a coach, right? All the Super Bowl titles, everything that he's accomplished on that front. And so people are now going to question, okay, how does that translate to the college level? Deion's different. It was really how does his personality translate, and what does having an A-list celebrity in that seat do for a program? And we've seen the impact that it's had over the last couple of years. So I'm curious to see how this plays out with Belichick. I know a lot of people will be paying attention to North Carolina who wouldn't have cared even a little bit about the Tar Heels if he wasn't the coach.
As you're well aware, we're in Salt Lake City, so we're focusing mostly on the Big 12 Conference and specifically the University of Utah. And depending on, your favorite place, your favorite list, your favorite writer, the Big 12, it's some combination of there's going to be a lot of parity, and there's 4, 5, or 6 teams that could win the conference this year. How do you handicap the Big 12 and Utah's place in that picture?
Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation, right? Because if 5 or 6 is the conversation now, and 5 or 6 was the conversation last year, but none of those teams ended up being
the wrong 5 or 6, right?
Yeah, so it's like, look, Arizona State was picked, I believe, to come in last place in the conference last year, and goes on to win the conference, shows well in the playoff. I mean, BYU was down on that list. They were competitive to the end. I don't think Iowa State was highly projected going into last year. Maybe they were a little bit higher than the other two, but you understand what I'm saying. And so I think it's it makes sense of why the 5-6 teams are in the spotlight now. But I think the lesson is there, right? This is a really even conference to begin with, just resources wise. And then on top of that, you've also just got this weird free agency dynamic that really changes how you prepare for a college football season. No one really knows anything anymore. It was always hard to project college football in a way, right? There was a formula: returning starters, last year's success, coaching success, all those things. But now these rosters are basically starting over. And so I think that's compelling in that way, because look, as good as we think, Texas Tech might be, or Baylor, or Arizona State, we won't really have a great sense until probably the end of September.
If then, right? Because
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Because everyone beats everyone in these conferences sometimes. And, you and I have both spent a lot of time covering Pac-12 sports, and there's a new Pac-12, but the original, the sort of legacy brands in the Pac-12 conference are all scattered to the wind. ACC, Big Ten, some landed in the Big 12. And that conference was plagued by its own parity. That conference was plagued by being thick through the middle and not having the elite blue blood brands also be elite blue blood competitors in the final years, notwithstanding that Washington run to a national championship when it had already been decided that the Pac-12 was going to die, basically. But I have this, traumatic memory that is getting stirred up again, where everyone's just like, if everyone is great in your conference, then nobody is. And the national conversation around the Pac-12 for 5 years was just like, well, have fun out there, guys. We're not going to watch because there's no great team. It feels like the Big 12 is headed down that path, or is firmly in the middle of that path right now.
Yeah, no, there's some strong parallels there. But what I'll say is the main difference now, and why it's not as big an issue for the Big 12, is as the Pac-12 was dealing with that, it was a 4-team playoff, right? And so there was the best team was going to be outside of the national conversation because they didn't factor into the top 4 playoff discussion. Now, because there is access for the Big 12 champion regardless, right? I mean, you could drum up a scenario where they wouldn't get in, but on 99% of the time, under the current format, the Big 12 champion would go to the playoff, right? And so as long as your conference champion is relevant in the playoff discussion, which it will be, right? I still think that buoys the conference in a way that the Pac-12 didn't have. If the 12-team format existed, back, at the start of the 4-team era, I don't think the Pac-12 would have been as irrelevant as it became, because you still would have been in the playoff every year, and there would have been reason nationally to pay attention to the race because it factored into what would happen at the end of the year. And so for me, that was always such a contributing factor into like notoriety of the Pac-12, is that the 4-team playoff just completely sabotaged the Pac-12 in a way that it really boosted the ACC, right? The ACC was a terrible conference for much of that time, but they had Clemson, keeping them relevant year after year when they were at the peak of their powers. You had Florida State, give them a nice bump, and that just didn't happen for the Pac-12 in the same way. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be as concerned now about the Big 12 not factoring in nationally as the Pac-12 did, just because those factors are so much different.
Kyle Bonagura is my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things college football as we head into the 2025 season. The playoff inclusiveness conversation is happening again. 24 and 28 team models, I guess, being floated around. A more likely scenario seems to be like a 16-team model. A lot of disagreement over automatic bids and things like that. So your point is well made that the 4-team model was problematic for the Pac-12 and for the Big 12 in some of those years as well. And now a 12-team model that solved the problem last year for a lot of these conferences and a lot of these access points. We're only going to get to hang on to, it seems like, for a couple of years. What is the most likely outcome for you when it comes to an expanded college football playoff and the Big Ten and the SEC having so much power in that decision-making process?
Yeah, I think the guiding light is probably just small incremental changes. And so, that's just been how college sports has always operated, right? So we saw it go from 2 to 4 to 12. So I think 16 is probably the next likely step. How they do how they determine who's in the field, I think there's obviously a number of ways that could still go, but I think 16 is possible. And I just if you look at FCS, they're at 24, right? So there's already a model that the NCAA uses to determine a champion in football that's larger than 16, and it's a model that has worked out really well for that level. And I think what we're going to see is, as the playoff grows, it's going to continue to devalue the bowl games, right? And so, if you're the 13th team now, your bowl game probably doesn't seem as important because you thought you were going to be in the playoff. And that'll be the case when you're the 17th team and there's a 16-team playoff, right? And that's going to keep trickling down and devalue all the bowls outside of the playoff system. And so I think eventually there's just going to be more an appetite to grow. And look, if it gets to 24 or 28 or whatever, I'm watching all those games, and college football fans are watching all those games too. And so I eventually just money's going to rule the day. I think the ratings will kind of guide everyone in where to go, and whether that's good or bad or somewhere in between, is obviously up for individual interpretation, but I think that's probably how this is going to play out.
How many must-watch players are there in college football right now where the team is what it is, but there's a player that you're like, I need to see what he's going to do this year? Your number is probably larger than a lot of casual fans, or maybe it's smaller because, it becomes a job for you, but how many must-watch players are there?
Yeah, no, I'm probably not the best person for that question, honestly. I'm very team-oriented, and whatever the national headlines are, it's going to dictate kind of where I'm watching. Look, Arch Manning right now is the interesting player in college football. We have a list of ESPN top 100 players in the country that kind of goes over all of that stuff that will help me guide stuff. But right now, I'm so team focused that it's for me, it's not even about watching players. So that's a bad answer, but I'm not the right person for watching football that way.
I've asked a couple people this question today. In the big picture, the NCAA is trying to stay relevant in the world of college football, and they're handing out sanctions, and they handed out some more sanctions to the University of Michigan in the sign stealing situation. And, there's a lot of literature out there right now about how Jim Harbaugh is the most penalized cheater in the history of college sports and whatnot. But you look at, Michigan, undeniable college football, blue blood. And yes, they get slapped with something, but are we looking at that? Are other teams that are in similar situations looking at what has happened through this whole process, to the Michigan reputation, to the individuals involved, to, the podcasts and the Netflix specials released, is there enough meat on the bone to say, gosh, guys, you can't get away with it, and when you don't get away with it, it's just not good for your football program? Or is everyone looking at this and being like, you know what? They got to pay like $20 million in penalties, but they got a national championship out of it, so worth it.
Yeah, so I think it's like, what is the end result, right? Michigan has a national title, and basically any sort of punishment that comes with a national title, like they didn't take it away. You got to live the experience. I think just about every Michigan fan will be like, hey, we're fine with how this played out. We would, if it played out the same way again, would you rather have the cheating and the national title, or no cheating and no national title? How many people, are honestly picking no national title with the cheating scandal? Like, we're without it, right? I just don't think people care enough about it. It's like, yes, it was cheating, but it's also, look, it's sign stealing and it's bad and they shouldn't do it, but it's not some egregious, it's just something that just is undefensible. Like, cheating has been a part of sports for as long as they've existed, and it will be the case moving forward. But I think most programs are probably in the same spot, where if you can get away with it, or you can achieve something great, it's probably worth it. Certainly the punishment and the punishment from the NCAA, all the bad bad publicity, it was all worth it for Michigan to get where they ended up. And then look, Jim Harbaugh goes off into the sunset, goes to the NFL, and is rewarded with a big new deal there. And now he's trying to win a Super Bowl.
All right, unfair question before I let you go. Last year we had Indiana surprise a lot of people. Arizona State won the conference, as you already stated, when they were thought to be one of the worst or the worst in the conference. Is there a team out there that you're like, God, they're going to surprise everyone this year?
Yeah, so this probably, this kind of answers your question, but it probably won't surprise a lot of people. The team that I'm really interested in right now is Texas Tech. And that's just because we've all seen the numbers, right? Like, there's been rumors that it's as much as $40 million spent on that roster. And so it shouldn't surprise anyone if they're good. But I am curious from the standpoint of, like, what does $40 million get you, right? Let's see how direct a correlation there will be between having that big of an off season in the transfer portal and recruiting, using that oil money to build a winner. And if it works, I think you'll see other teams try to follow a similar formula and just really do everything they can to go for it in a single year.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it doesn't work, but I'm a little bit worried that it might. So we'll see Texas Tech on the Utah football schedule. We'll be paying close attention. We'll be reading everything you write, and I really do hope that we all get a chance to keep listening to the story of it's crazy that we're going to see Paul Wolf in week 2 for the University of Utah on their football schedule, while we're listening to this podcast.
No, I think what it does too is, like, a lot of people know Paul Wolf for his tenure at Washington State, where they just didn't win a lot of games. But I think when you have this added context about what he went through as a kid, his mother went missing when he was 12 years old. And they didn't identify her remains for 41 years after that. Like, it really will help understand who he is as a person. Really a great guy, really a great man. It should be motivating for a lot of people. And I think it really, the contrast of what you learn in the podcast versus what you may have already thought about him will really shape your feelings for sure.
The Unforgotten Finding Dolores Wolf. Check it out and read everything that Kyle Bonagura writes for ESPN. Thanks, Kyle.
All right. Thanks.
That's Kyle Bonagura. Big thanks to him for hopping on. Spent a lot of time covering Pac-12, and I'm not the biggest true crime podcast guy in the world, but when there's crossover with sports, obviously it can suck you in. And a cold case that was 40-plus years in the making is really, really fascinating. And as we just said, head coach of Cal Poly, Paul Wolf, it's his family. His mom, which is heartbreaking, but also does give context.
So and it relates to the Utes season because, of course, week 2 is Cal Poly. So that's interesting. I heard Kyle talking about this with Spence a couple weeks ago. That's the first I heard of this, and I've listened to the first episode. Really good. If you're into true crime, if you're a sports fan, also into true crime, this is the best of both worlds.
I think I will have to wait till after Utah plays Cal Poly to finish because I don't want to be rooting for Cal Poly.
I know this is a story that makes you want to root for Paul Wolf,
And
the
also,
head coach of Cal Poly.
I also already kind of halfway root for Cal Poly because that's my grandfather's
Oh yeah,
school. My grandpa played at Cal Poly. So it's like if I add this on top, then I'm going to be sad when Utah beats up on Cal Poly, you know?
yeah. I can see the internal conflict there for you, OC. But this is, yeah, it's a very fascinating story. Obviously, very sad, and I just think it's kind of crazy coincidence for us here in this market that this podcast that comes out in podcast form the year that he's coming to Salt Lake City with his Cal Poly team to play the University of Utah.
All right, teams around the country are naming their starting quarterbacks, NFL teams and college football teams, including Ohio State. They start the year with a massive matchup. They're a slight favorite over Texas. We talked about this last week. It's the first time ever that the number one team in the country in the preseason poll is also an underdog in week one because Texas is going to the shoe. We'll tell you who they named, the Buckeyes, named as their starting quarterback for that Texas game. And one person here might have some strong thoughts about it. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Monday edition of the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 700, 92 on FM. We're going to be giving away some Big Willie's in the next segment. Topical trivia. We'll have a Big Willie's gift card for you, so get your texting fingers ready. James Peterson, did you hear what they're saying in Columbus, Ohio?
I like what you did there. Yes.
It feels gross that I just did. That's a James type joke.
Well, did you hear what their Keinholzen is? It doesn't really work very well.
Yeah.
Or Keenholz. I've heard it both ways, as Sean Spencer would say. Yeah, I did hear Julian Sayin named the starting quarterback for Week 1 for the Buckeyes. Feels like reading about it, they could have either way. They would have been confident in who they picked. I mean, you got Keenholz has a year more experience, although not much game experience, of course. Saying it would be, I don't know if he's a redshirt freshman technically or a sophomore, but he's his second year of college football. Again, not much game experience. It does feel like if it's tied, go with the younger guy and get him more development. And I can't really argue with that. I don't have a strong opinion because I haven't seen these guys playing games very much because Ohio State had C.J. Stroud and or was it after Stroud was – oh, no, it was Kyle McCord and Will Howard ahead of these guys the last couple of years. They only got limited action in those seasons. So I guess we'll see if they made the right move against Texas 12 days from now.
The Texas – Ohio State matchup, of course, is the headliner. That's the premier. That's on the top of the marquee for the opening weekend of the college football season. And one thing that really makes it fascinating is that you're talking about first-year full-time starters in both cases. Now, Arch has played a lot of game action for Texas, but this role is going to be significantly different. I mean, he was kind of a wildcat quarterback for them last year.
He was. I mean, he played, 3 games, 2.5 games when Quinn Ewers went down early in the season. He didn't play any Power 4 opponents in those games. And he was already getting – I mean, if you remember, his betting odds to win the Heisman after, I think, the Rice game maybe, where he was like the betting favorite to win the Heisman after that. And, of course, then Ewers came back and he didn't play much other than the Wildcat role. So I think he's going to be great. I think there's a lot more reason to feel that way about Arch Manning than there is about Julian Sayin or Lincoln Keenholz, because he started a couple of games. He didn't just come in garbage time a couple of times like the Ohio State quarterbacks.
And they used him in spot situations in like crucial. They said, we trust you, use your skill set, weirdly run the ball, which you don't think of when you think of a Manning quarterback.
I mean, not unless you're talking about Archie Manning, his grandfather.
Yeah,
and that was obviously a long time ago.
Peyton and Eli apparently skipped that gene, skipped Peyton and Eli, and it's back for Arch. But I like it. I like that we have this matchup of big time teams that are hyper talented roster wise, and they've got hyper talented young players at the quarterback position. The reason I say I like it so much is because it adds a level of variability to this matchup where anything can happen. Like this, the percentages are higher when you're talking about 5 stars, but young players are going to make young player mistakes. And that still applies for Arch, I think, especially in a high-pressure situation. And so it might be a better evaluation of which team is actually in a better situation from a national championship level, because you're going to lean so much more heavily on your experienced guys, your running backs, your offensive line, get the ball in a short passing situation to tight ends, wide receivers, playmakers that have been here before, and you're measuring out the entire roster, which, of course, every game is to a certain level. This one even more so because it's elite versus elite, or it's supposed to be, and the wild card being at the most important position means that everyone else's margin for error shrinks. you could get a better picture of who's the best team, the best roster, instead of just who has the best quarterback. Because in college football, that position has so much influence that you can hide a lot of mistakes. You can burn off a lot of warts by just saying, look how good our quarterback is. I mean, Cam Newton got the announcement that they're retiring his jersey at Auburn, right? They're making that official. Number 2, Cam Newton was that team. All respect to his fellas at his teammates at Auburn. Cam Newton was that team. You could be an average dude on that team, but because you had Cam Newton, you were going to look better. You were going to be part of a national championship caliber squad because you had the Heisman Trophy winner. You had that dude who was built bigger, stronger, faster, processing speed was better, just like cannon for an arm, and he erased a lot of things. You can't, in a week 1 matchup between 2 young guys, one of whom has some spot starts and some spot play, the other one who's a freshman, 5-star, supposed to be all everything, you're not going to put the game in their hands if you can avoid it. So that's fun for the average. Maybe not fun if you're Ohio State. A little bit more fun probably for Texas when you're looking at the quarterback leadership situation. But if you're just a fan of college football, it's a reason to watch both of these guys, not only to get what they're made of, but to see what the rest of the roster does around them in order to take responsibility away from the young quarterbacks to help win or not.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm not like expressing a huge opinion about Julian Sayin being named the starter. Another reason why I should say is that he could look really shaky against the best team in the country, and the next week because it's as tight as at least they're writing and what Ryan Day has said to the media that it was such a tight race. The next week they could have Keenholz start and be like, okay, Julian didn't win the job against Texas for the rest of the season. Let's see what you got, Link. I mean, it feels a lot more fluid for Ohio State than it does for Texas. I don't see a scenario where Texas, where Arch is bad enough that they turn to another one of the Sark turns to another one of the quarterbacks on the roster to start another game. You could see that with either Julian Sayin or Lincoln Keenholz at Ohio State. So I'm kind of going, of course I want the Buckeyes to win this game, but I'm also going, I want to see if one of these guys, if Sayin in this case, is good enough to win the job for the entire season. I'm not sure. I don't know yet till we see it.
So Julian Sayin has been named the starter for that Texas matchup in week 1 for the Ohio State University. That will be the opening game of your week 1 slate, and then Utah versus UCLA will be the closing game.
Yeah, and because the Utah game starts so late, guess what game we're going to be able to air on the station? At 10 a.m. Ohio State, Texas. So you'll get to listen to both on the station.
I hope everyone was watching the YouTube and seeing that satisfied smugness on your face about your Buckeyes.
You get the biggest game nationally on the weekend, and the Utes game, which could end up being the second or third most entertaining game. Maybe the most entertaining game of the week. There's not a ton of huge matchups, so Utah UCLA has got a chance to be one that becomes very memorable.
By the way,
week 1.
The night game is at the opposite end of that. Let the quarterback control your destiny spectrum. UCLA is like, Nico, you're going to take us to the promised land.
We need you badly.
Utah is like, Devin, we brought you in to fix all of our problems offensively. So have fun.
And by all accounts, Devin loves having that pressure, which is great for Utah.
By the way, Devin Dampier's first conversation with us is going to happen on Thursday.
Let's go.
On the Sean O'Connell Show. Football season is here. The starting quarterback will be doing weekly appearances on the Sean O'Connell Show. Devin will, in a to-be-determined named segment, Devin Dampier, a regular guest on the Sean O'Connell Show, starting Thursday.
Thursday. Hopefully we settle on a name during Thursday's interview.
I think
we plan on asking him.
Maybe
about
we
it.
just keep it fluid and we call it something different every time.
Oh, okay.
People like that.
As long as it's got Devin Dampier
It's
in the
easier to-
name, we're fine.
It's easier to build the branding if you have no idea what you're calling it.
That's a good point.
It's much simpler to sell to sponsors if you're just like, we don't know what to say.
Is that what Frida's strategy is going to be with the breast milk flavored ice cream? This week it's going to be called breast milk flavored ice cream. Next week, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing. Breast milk is something you can get away with making a flavored ice cream. Like all the other fluids that come out of the human body, nobody wants.
You don't
turned
want
into an ice cream.
You don't want a saliva flavored ice cream.
This is blood flavored ice cream. You don't want it. What kind of blood? Human blood. Oh, yikes! Just a line full of vampires.
Oh, tiger's blood? No, human blood.
It's human blood. It's like actually, you know what? Frida might be doing the Lord's work here and just flushing out all the weirdos in society.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, let's start with a soft one. Be like, anyone who wants breast milk ice cream. And they're just arresting people as they buy their pints. And then all the vampires that line up for the blood-flavored one. Like, you guys are also being put in jail. Weirdos.
In collaboration with your local police department.
Yeah. It's just like that To Catch a Predator show, but it's for ice cream flavors specifically. All right. Last break, and then we'll give away some Big Willie's gift cards. Utah Sports Bar at 1717 South Main has lunch specials every day. They fed us with the crispy chicken sandwich, fries on the side. That lunch special is going on today. Tomorrow it'll be something else. The next day it'll be something else. And we will have the food on the hot lunch right here at ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We got Big Willie's gift card to give away, 877-353-0700. Topical trivia question. The start bench cut that I gave you was for Utah football and athletics royalty. Start bench cut, the Ellis family, the Dyson family, the Barton family. Who was of the Ellis, Dyson, and Bartons? Who was the highest draft pick? 877-353-0700. Ellis, Dyson, Barton. Which member of those families was the highest draft pick in the NFL draft? If you know the answer, we'll give you a gift card to Big Willie's. The lunch special today was the crispy chicken sandwich. Get it with fries on the side, veggies on the side, onion rings on the side, whatever. Fantastic menu, both for cocktails, for draft beers, bottled beers, and, of course, for food at 1717 South Main. They were packed, by the way, on Saturday night. There was a huge UFC pay-per-view card where the main event was one of the most one-sided performances in championship MMA history. Anyone out there who's a fight fan, Khamzat Chimaev is going to be a champ for a long time. And that's probably not good for the UFC, which is fine with me, because in the PFL, we want people watching us instead. Spence Checketts and The Drive are coming up next here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. And Spence is right here in our Broadway studio. Hey.
Hello, Sean. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Question.
Answer.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
What's the, because you just referenced the fighter who's going to be a champ for a while. How long does, like, the baddest dude on the planet moniker typically last? Because I feel like I don't follow it as much as I used to. As I've told you, when the UFC, I'm more like Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, Matt Hughes. I have an autographed glove for Matt Hughes. No big deal.
Matt used to spend a lot of time here in Utah, actually.
Yeah, that's how I got it. Met him at an event, signed a glove. And I feel like every few years you hear, like, this dude is now the guy.
Yeah.
How long does that run typically last? Just generally speaking.
5 years is good. 10 years, like John Jones has had, 10 years plus, is truly, truly special. Anderson Silva was that guy for 5-6 years. George St. Pierre took it from Matt Hughes probably. And you go by weight classes, obviously. So, like, Chuck Liddell had it for 5 years or so. It's something that, how do you prove you're the baddest man on the planet? Well, now, interestingly enough, fighters are more apt to want to prove that they're the baddest man on the planet and chase belts in multiple weight classes within reason. And Khamzat Chimaev, who just, to be fair, he won the title. He hasn't defended it even one time. So I, like everyone else, should probably pump the brakes. But it was so one-sided. And if you've been paying attention to the conversation around this guy for a long time, I mean, he fought at 170. I don't think he can make that weight anymore. So he's not going to be a welterweight champion. But he was beating up all the 170s. He's beating up all the 185-pounders. And the guys that he trains with, including former title challengers, say that he beats up the 205ers. So he has made it public that he wants to win 3 belts in the UFC. And Islam Makhachev, who's Khabib's protege, has said, I want to take 3 belts in the UFC as well. So these guys are trying to not only attain that title from a popular opinion standpoint, but also kind of prove it by chasing multiple belts.
It seems like it might be one of, if not the hardest sport or art to stay on top, right? Like LeBron has been the best player. I mean, he's not anymore, but LeBron was the best player in the NBA for maybe 15 years.
Yeah.
And you can go down the list, best baseball player in the world, it seems like when it comes to a sport that violent and that physical, to be the guy for that long might be the most difficult endeavor.
I mean, it's got to be close, and the fall from the top can be precipitous.
Yeah.
Where when LeBron James is no longer the best player in the world, it's like, okay, so now you're top 5 instead of the best.
Mm-hmm.
We, like with Chuck Liddell is a good example. Chuck Liddell went from being the baddest dude on the planet to a guy, if you sneeze at him, he goes unconscious, right? So it can be like a really dramatic downfall.
Yeah.
And I think that, like John Jones is probably going to he is retired right now. I don't think he's going to come back. And he just gets to ride off into the sunset as the baddest man on the planet, which is very rare.
You think he's done? You think John Jones is done?
He has said that he is. The only obvious fights out there for him in the UFC are ones he doesn't want to take. And aside from teasing everyone when Donald Trump announced that there's going to be a fight card on the White House lawn, John Jones said, now that's something that could get me out of retirement. Other than that, he said, I'm done.
Not even like I don't know anything about his finances, but massive paycheck wouldn't get him back.
Well, allegedly, he was offered the massive paycheck that he asked for in order to fight Tom Aspinall, is the guy who's now been elevated. He was interim champ in John's absence. Now he is the undisputed champ of the UFC at heavyweight, British guy who's a freak of an athlete. If he had been born in the United States, he'd be playing outside linebacker for the Bears or something. Like, he's a monster. But allegedly, he asked for $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall, and they finally said, fine, we'll give it to you, but you got to fight him. And he was like, actually, I don't really want to. Allegedly.
It's a lot of money to turn down for one fight.
Yeah, but he's made a lot of money, and by all accounts, he's invested it well and turned it into even more money and Bitcoined his way into, independent wealth.
So, one of those guys, like my cousins.
Hey, it works.
Well, probably should have listened to him 4 or 5 years ago when they sent the family text and the family email. I was very skeptical, but good for them.
Yeah, good for them. What's coming up on the show?
Well, we're high speed ahead to game day for Utah football. Looks like BYU has a starting quarterback. Week 3 NFL preseason stuff. I mean, mostly football this time of year. A really weird dynamic going on with NBA scheduling. I don't think anybody gives a rip. Jazz schedule came out. They have one nationally televised game, and my guess is that will be flexed off. But NBC is back, and they're streaming partners, and they're trying something really unique and really different. We'll see how it works. But yeah, a lot of college football on the show today. Look back on Week 3 of the NFL preseason and whatever else comes our way, Sean, on this busy Monday afternoon.
Start one, bench one, cut one. Utah royalty.
I saw this.
Ellis family, Dyson family, Barton family.
You got to ride with the Paulies, okay? So first and foremost. See, and you respectfully listed the names of the other families that should be included in this.
Could be, sure.
Who did you go with? Let me cheat off of you. We're sitting next to each other in class. Let me cheat off of you.
You have to, if you're taking football, you have to start the Ellises. They're 2 of like the 11 consensus All-Americans, and one still will see what he becomes.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you missed out on a couple of the other brothers. They went to Idaho and are in the NFL right now.
Right.
But just taking Luther and Jonah, consensus All-Americans. So you probably have to start them from a football perspective.
Right. It feels correct.
The Dysons would be, if from a football-only perspective, the second most accomplished. So I would go with the Dysons, and then the Bartons would have to be cut. But if you're taking Utah athletics, it's start the Bartons because dad, mom, sister, all 3 brothers were important players for the team. In that case, you probably go Barton, Ellis, Dyson.
Ellis feels like the choice to start.
Yeah, and then we're talking about football. It's football season.
Yeah, and I'm conflicted on the other 2. I don't hate the Bartons like you, so I'll just keep the Bartons in the mix, and we'll cut the Dysons. Oh, no, don't you 2 start with me after you sicked Chase Hansen, my in-studio guest who I had to cut that day. And he wasn't listening. He didn't know until James sold me out. So I don't want to hear anything from you.
You benched him, right?
Well, I mean, we had to that day.
Yeah,
you benched him too, but you just didn't have him in the studio. I didn't have
to face him
in an intimidating way. That's a big kid.
Well, there was no cutting.
Hey,
of
nobody tell Lander that I cut his family.
I bet Lander listens every day.
He probably does.
Are we talking to?
He doesn't have a. He's got like a flip phone.
Does he really?
Lander is.
Are we talking to Lander today? I think it says defensive players. We might be talking to Lander today.
I'm not telling him, and none of you will either.
It's best unsaid because we do have to deal with some of these people throughout the season.
Yeah. See, when a former MMA fighter says none of you will either, I'm more inclined to listen than when Spence Checketts says it.
A former 20-point per game scorer in the FCAC? What?
Wow.
New Canaan, Connecticut, stand up. Good to see you, Sean.
Good to see you, Spence. Stay tuned for The Drive. We'll do the Sean O'Connell Show again tomorrow on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.